They told you success is about luck, talent, or who you know. But what if everything you've been taught is a lie? What if the real secret lies in mastering your mind, conquering fear, defining a purpose so clear it shatters doubt, and believing so deeply that reality bends to your will? What if you've been conditioned to think small, stuck in the wrong environment, and robbed of the truth that persistence, not privilege, builds empires? And what if the only thing standing between you and everything you desire is the courage to take your vision back? They never wanted you to know this. You may walk this earth with 2 arms and 2 legs like every other man, but the difference between the man who commands millions and the man who begs for pennies lies in one invisible place, the mind. The mind is not just a tool, it is the master key to every door you wish to open. They don't want you to understand this. They would rather you believe that your fate is sealed by circumstance, by the economy, by your upbringing, or by luck. But the real truth, the secret they hope remains buried, is that thought is the origin of everything you see, touch, earn, or become. Let me tell you this plainly: what you consistently think about, you attract. Your dominant thoughts are the architects of your reality. You cannot harbor fear, doubt, and failure in your mind and expect success, confidence, or wealth to appear. That's like planting weeds and expecting roses to bloom. It cannot be done, yet millions of people go through life thinking thoughts of limitation, of lack, of despair, and then wonder why they continue to receive more of the same. The truth is brutally simple. Your outer world is a perfect mirror of your inner thoughts. It is not what you say aloud. It is what you whisper to yourself in the silence of your mind that writes the script of your life. The wealthiest men you know did not begin with overflowing bank accounts. Many began with broken shoes, empty pockets, and unpaid debts, but they had one priceless asset, a mind trained to see possibilities where others saw problems. They learned to discipline their thinking, to reject negativity like poison, and to focus their mental energy like a laser. They didn't allow fear to fester. They didn't entertain self-pity. They built empires in their minds long before they owned land or capital. They understood that the only real power is the ability to think clearly, powerfully, and deliberately. You see, your mind is like fertile soil. It does not care what seed you plant. It will return what you sow. If you plant confusion, you will harvest chaos. But if you plant clarity, purpose, and faith, your rewards will be limitless. This is why you must guard your mind as fiercely as a king guards his treasure. Filter the thoughts you allow in. Choose the books you read. Watch the company you keep, because every thought, every influence, every word either nourishes your future or starves it. They don't teach this in schools. They don't broadcast this in the media. Because the moment you realize your mind is the source of your success, they lose control. You no longer beg for approval. You no longer fear failure. You no longer play small, and that, my friend, is the one secret they hope you never discover. Because once you do, the world is no longer something you adapt to. It becomes something you design. There is a silent enemy that lives inside nearly every man. It doesn't knock at your door, it's already in the room. It whispers before you even rise from bed. It sabotages dreams, poisons decisions, and shackles potential. That enemy is fear. You won't see it on a battlefield. It wears no uniform, but it has conquered more men than all the wars in history combined. And here's what they won't tell you. Fear is not real in the sense of physical substance. It is an illusion, a shadow of the mind, and yet it has more control over your life than anything outside of you. From the time you are young, you are taught to fear. Fear of failing, fear of standing out, fear of speaking up, fear of being wrong, fear of going broke. Every one of those fears is planted in your mind like a parasite. And do you know why? Because a man full of fear is easy to manage. He won't take risks. He won't challenge authority. He won't pursue greatness. He'll settle for just enough to survive, and they'll call him realistic, while he dies with his song still inside him. But understand this: fear can only live where faith is absent. It thrives in the unknown, feeds on hesitation, and multiplies with inaction. The moment you move, the moment you decide, the moment you act in spite of fear, you begin to sever its hold. Most men wait for fear to vanish before they move forward. That is a fatal mistake. Fear will never leave a man who waits. It only retreats when you prove you no longer answer to it. Greatness demands that you do the thing you fear. Success hides behind locked doors that only courage can open, and courage is not the absence of fear. It is the refusal to be governed by it. When you let fear dictate your decisions, you are no longer living. You are merely surviving. You go through the motions, chasing safety and comfort, while the clock drains your life away. I have seen men with half your talent rise twice as high, not because they were better, but because they were bolder. They understood a secret that most never grasp. Fear is a liar. It promises to protect you, but only paralyzes. It claims to keep you safe, but it costs you everything worth having, and the longer you obey it, the more it becomes your master. The world does not belong to the man who plays it safe. It belongs to the man who feels the fear and moves forward anyway, the man who understands that on the other side of fear is freedom. And once you taste that kind of freedom, you'll never trade your courage for comfort again. Fear may knock, but you'll never answer, because you'll know the truth. The man who conquers fear conquers everything. There is a force more destructive than poverty, more crippling than failure, and more enslaving than any physical chain, and that force is fear. It's not loud. It doesn't shout. It whispers. It plants doubt in your mind when opportunity knocks. It convinces you to wait when the moment demands action. It tells you you're not ready, not good enough, not smart enough. And slowly, without ever raising its voice, it robs you of everything you were born to be. That is the secret they don't want you to understand. Fear is the silent weapon used to keep you small. You see, the systems of the world are built to make you afraid. Afraid to speak your truth, afraid to chase your dreams, afraid to lose your job, your status, your comfort. They dress it up as being realistic. They call it playing it safe, but it is fear. Plain and simple. And a man ruled by fear cannot think clearly. He does not take bold steps. He doesn't reach beyond his current conditions. He waits, he hesitates, he stays in place while others pass him by. Not because he lacks talent, not because he lacks opportunity, but because he listens to the wrong voice inside. And let me be clear, fear is not something you outrun. You must confront it. You must stare it in the eye and do the very thing it warns you against. Every time you retreat in fear, you surrender a piece of your power, but every time you act in spite of it, you reclaim your mind, your will, your life. That is the unseen truth they don't want you to discover. Because the moment you master fear, you become dangerous to those who profit from your hesitation. Now, I know fear feels real. It comes with a racing heart, a trembling hand, a pit in the stomach, but those are only signals. Not signs to stop, signs to move forward. The fear you feel when standing before a decision is often the proof that you are on the edge of growth. It is not there to destroy you, it is there to test you. And when you push through it, not only do you grow stronger, you become the kind of man who cannot be manipulated. They cannot control the man who no longer fears rejection, loss, or failure, because that man becomes self-directed. He chooses his own path. He no longer needs approval to act. He no longer shrinks to fit someone else's comfort zone, and that, more than anything, terrifies those who thrive on keeping you compliant. So I say this to you, do not wait for fear to disappear. Move with it, speak with it. Build with it, clinging to your back if you must, but never let it hold the pen that writes your future. Because the day you stop obeying fear is the day you start commanding your life. A man without a purpose is like a ship without a rudder, tossed by every wave, pulled by every current, drifting aimlessly until he runs aground. And this is exactly what they want. They don't want you to move with direction. They want you busy but aimless, active but unfocused. because the moment you define your purpose with absolute clarity, you become a force they cannot control. Purpose is power in its purest form. It gives your thoughts direction, your actions meaning, and your life a magnetic pull toward success. When you decide with certainty what it is you want, and why you must have it, something changes in the atmosphere around you. People, resources, ideas, and opportunities begin to shift in your favor. That's no accident. That's the law of the universe aligning with the focused mind of a man who knows where he's going, but most people never take that step. They don't define anything. They say they want a better life, or more money, or happiness, but that is not definite, that is vague. The subconscious mind cannot move on a foggy command. It needs clarity. It needs exactness. A man with a definite purpose speaks with conviction and moves with intention. He doesn't ask for permission, and he doesn't wait for conditions to be perfect. Now understand this. The moment you declare your purpose, resistance will rise. Doubters will question you, obstacles will appear, fear will whisper that you've gone too far, and still you must stand firm, because purpose is not something you chase. It's something you embody, you live it. You breathe it. You let it seep into every part of your being until your thoughts, words, and actions all move in harmony toward your vision. That's when momentum begins to build. That's when the impossible begins to bow in your direction. They don't teach this kind of living. They teach you to follow, to wait, to adjust. But purpose does not adjust, it demands. It does not whisper, it roars. And when you follow that roar, when you organize your days around a single burning desire, you eliminate confusion. You eliminate distraction. You eliminate the wasted years. That's the secret they don't want you to realize. Clarity is more dangerous than chaos, because a clear mind is a powerful weapon. And once you've made your decision, truly made it, the world begins to move out of your way. You may not have the resources right now, you may not have the support, the experience, or the connections, but if you have a definite purpose and you refuse to surrender it, everything else can be built. Everything else can be found, because the man who knows exactly what he wants will either find a way or create one. There is a force within you more potent than talent, more valuable than education, and more powerful than any resource outside of you, and that force is faith. Not blind belief, not empty hope, but a deep, unshakable conviction that what you desire already exists in the unseen and is moving toward you. Faith is the bridge between thought and reality, between dream and manifestation. And that, my friend, is the part they never want you to fully grasp, because the man who walks by faith does not need approval, he does not need evidence, he does not wait to see before he believes and then he sees. Most men are prisoners of what they can touch, hear, and measure. They only trust what they can prove, and so they limit themselves to what has already been done, what has already been built, and what others have already believed. But the ones who rise beyond the common crowd, those who shape industries, rewrite history, and alter the course of their own lives, those men begin with faith. They see the invisible and act on it with absolute confidence. They are called foolish until they succeed, and then they are called visionaries. You must understand that faith is not passive, it is not wishful thinking. Faith is active, aggressive, and intentional. It compels a man to move even when the road is dark. It demands that you act as though it is already done, even when the evidence is missing. Because when you act in faith, you send a signal to the universe, to your own subconscious, and to the world around you that you are not playing by the rules of limitation. You are operating on the frequency of creation. They won't teach you this. They will tell you to be cautious, to wait for signs, to rely only on facts. But what they won't say is that every fact we now accept, every structure, every fortune, every system, once existed only in someone's imagination, powered by faith. The skyscraper, the airplane, the light bulb, the empire, it all began with someone who believed in what could not yet be seen, And here is the truth that will set you apart. You don't need anyone to believe in your vision as long as you do. You don't need the crowd to clap before you begin. Most people are too afraid to believe in anything bigger than their current reality. But if you can cultivate the kind of faith that persists when nothing seems to be working, if you can hold the picture of your success so clearly in your mind that it becomes more real than your doubts, then you will achieve what they call impossible. Because the man who walks by faith walks with power, and power bends reality to the will of the one who believes. From the moment you were born, they began shaping the boundaries of your thinking. They told you what was possible, what was appropriate, what was realistic. They trained you to color inside the lines, to raise your hand for permission, to follow the path that everyone else walks, and they called it education, they called it structure, but what it truly was programming, a slow, steady conditioning to make you think small, dream safe, and settle early. And the truth they hope you never uncover is this: your greatness has always been bigger than the box they put you in. The richest men you'll ever hear of, those who built empires, shifted industries, and rewrote history, were not the most talented, and they weren't born with silver spoons in their mouths. What they did differently was think differently. They questioned the limits, they rejected the standard rules, they refused to accept "this is just how things are" as the final word. They understood that small thinking is the greatest enemy of abundance. That's the real reason they rose, not because of what they had, but because of what they believed was possible for them. Now, here's the danger. Small thinking is comfortable. It doesn't challenge you. It doesn't scare you, and that's exactly why it's so deadly. You tell yourself you're being smart, being careful, being responsible, but really, you're shrinking your life to fit the size of your fears. You take your massive potential and squeeze it into a life of compromise, all because you don't want to be judged to fail or to stand out. But if you want to live really free, you must rip that programming out of your mind and install a new one. You must start thinking in terms of scale, not survival. Stop asking, "How can I afford this?" and start asking, "How can I create this?" Stop worrying about how others will perceive you and start focusing on how you will perceive yourself if you never give yourself the chance to rise. Because here's the truth they won't tell you: playing small won't protect you. It won't make life easier. It just guarantees that you'll live beneath your potential, and that is its own kind of suffering. They want you to think small because a small thinker doesn't challenge the system. A small thinker doesn't disrupt, doesn't lead, doesn't build. A small thinker consumes what he's given and never questions the source. But once you expand your thinking, you become unpredictable, you become creative, you become powerful. You no longer ask, "Can I do this?" You declare, "I will do this, and I'll find the way." That is the mindset they fear. That is the shift they try to prevent. Because the moment you stop shrinking to fit the world around you, the world is forced to expand to fit the power within you. Look closely at your life, and you'll find this truth staring back at you. Your results are a reflection of your environment. Not just the place you live in, but the people you surround yourself with, the conversations you entertain, the energy you absorb. If you are constantly around individuals who complain, who doubt, who live in fear, it won't matter how big your vision is eventually, their mindset becomes your mindset. That's the part most people miss. They think success is only about effort and knowledge, but effort inside the wrong environment is like planting a seed in barren soil. It doesn't matter how much sun it gets, nothing will grow. They don't want you to know how much power is in proximity. Because if you ever truly understood that the people you surround yourself with are either lifting you or limiting you, you'd start making different choices. You'd stop explaining your dreams to people who have already given up on theirs. You'd stop taking advice from those who have never walked the path you're trying to walk, and you'd realize that who you allow into your mind is just as important as what you feed it. Now here's the subtle trap. They disguise this as loyalty. Stay with your people. They say, don't forget where you came from. But staying rooted doesn't mean staying stagnant. Growth requires movement, and the hard truth is not everyone can come with you. Some were only meant to be part of your beginning, not your becoming. You owe them respect, but you don't owe them your future. You owe them kindness, but you don't owe them your destiny. The wealthy, the powerful, the creators of legacy, they understood this early. They were deliberate with their surroundings. They sought out thinkers, builders, risk-takers. They aligned themselves with people who believed, who stretched their thinking, who expected more from them. And in that environment their potential flourished, ideas took root, courage multiplied, faith grew louder than fear. You might be the most driven person in the room, but if the room is filled with small minds and limited beliefs, eventually the walls will close in on you. So ask yourself, who are you listening to? Who challenges you to grow? Who calls out your excuses and reminds you of your power? And more importantly, who are you becoming by staying where you are? You must protect your space like your future depends on it, because it does. Don't be afraid to outgrow people. Don't fear walking alone for a season, because once you raise your standards, the right people will find you. The ones who see your vision not as a fantasy, but as a foundation. They will speak your language. They will push you higher. And when you walk in that kind of environment, success becomes not just possible, it becomes inevitable. There is no force on earth more underestimated, more overlooked, and more powerful than the combination of burning desire and relentless persistence. You've been told that success comes from talent, timing, or luck, but they don't want you to know the real truth. The man who wins is not always the smartest or the strongest, but the one who refuses to stop. The one who shows up when it's hard, who pushes through the fog, who keeps going long after others have given up. That man becomes unstoppable. Desire alone is not enough. Plenty of men have dreams. Plenty of men wish for more. They talk, they hope, they wait. But wishing is not doing. Wanting is not moving. What separates the dreamer from the doer is persistence. The daily, deliberate, often unseen action that turns a desire into a result. It's waking up after failure and going again. It's hearing no 100 times and still believing in the yes you haven't heard yet. It's knocking on doors until your knuckles bleed because you know what's behind one of them belongs to you. Now, let me tell you something they won't say out loud. The system counts on you to quit. That's right. It is designed to exhaust you, to frustrate you, to test how badly you want what you say you want. Most men fold. They take the first setback as a sign to turn back. They lose steam when things don't go their way. But the few, the rare few, who decide that they must have what they desire, no matter how long it takes, no matter what stands in the way, no matter how many times they fall, those men always rise. Persistence is not glamorous. It doesn't come with applause or quick rewards. It's quiet, it's lonely. It's built in early mornings, late nights, and sacrifices nobody sees. But every day you persist, you separate yourself from the masses. Every day you refuse to give up. You carve a deeper groove into the path that leads to victory, and eventually, yes, eventually, what once felt impossible becomes inevitable, not because it suddenly became easy, but because you refused to let it stay hard. And make no mistake, there will be days you want to quit. Days when the mountain looks too high, when the silence feels too loud, when progress seems invisible. But that's where the shift happens. That's when you discover what you're made of. That's when desire stops being a flame and becomes a fire that fuels you through every storm. So if you're tired, rest, but don't stop. If you've failed, learn, but don't retreat. If no one believes in you, believe in yourself 10 times harder. Because the man who is willing to endure the storm, to outlast the struggle, to rise again and again no matter how many times he's knocked down that asterisk man becomes the master of his fate. They may sign your paycheck, but they do not own your vision. They may determine the hours you work, the tasks you perform, even the title on your office door, but they do not control your imagination, your ambition, or your potential, and that is the part they never want you to realize. Because the moment a man understands that his future is not in the hands of any employer, any system, or any external force, he becomes dangerous, he becomes free. You see, society has trained you to trade your vision for security. It's subtle but effective. You're taught to follow the rules, keep your head down, and be grateful for a steady job. Dreaming too big, that's risky. Wanting more, that's greedy. But the truth is, the real risk is in suppressing the fire inside you just to fit the mold that someone else designed. The real loss is not in failing. It's in never trying because you believed someone else held the keys to your success. They don't want you to build your own vision. They want you building theirs. They want you clocking in for their goals, showing up for their dreams, contributing your gifts to someone else's legacy. But you were never meant to live life on someone else's blueprint. You were meant to create your own, boldly, intentionally, and unapologetically. That vision inside you, the one you've been told is too big or too unrealistic, that's not a fantasy, it's a preview, a glimpse of what's possible when you decide to stop shrinking to fit your job and start expanding to match your calling. Now, I'm not saying quit your job tomorrow. I'm saying don't let it become your cage. You can work a job and still hold a vision. You can do what's necessary now while building what's next. Because vision is not about where you are, it's about where you're going. It's not limited by your current income, your surroundings, or your resume. It's powered by belief and sustained by action, and here's what makes vision so powerful. It multiplies everything you touch. A man with vision turns setbacks into strategy. He sees past obstacles and straight into opportunity. He doesn't ask for permission to grow. He gives himself the command. While others wait for the world to change, he becomes the one who changes it. So don't hand over your power just because someone offers you a paycheck. Don't silence your voice to keep the peace. Don't dim your light so others feel comfortable. You were born to see further, dream deeper, and build bigger than they told you was possible. Because in the end, your vision is not just a picture of what could be. It's the spark that sets everything in motion.